Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to present on the Africa breakout session, and then my colleague Frank will present on the EU session. But they all ran together. We shared the time together, and we were kind to each other. So in the Africa regulatory breakout session, we had 4 presentations. The first one looked at animal biotechnologies in the horizon in Africa. Then we had the Africa Union Regional Genome Editing Policy and implications for a harmonized approach to regulating GED animal applications. Then we had from 2 countries in Africa, Kenya and Nigeria, about their experiences with operationalization of the genome editing guidelines and implications for animal biotechnology. Then we had a very lively discussion led by Dr. Mary Mbore of the Africa Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. So the key highlights, as you know, Africa is a continent with 55 now member states, but it was felt in general that animal biotechnologies have great potential to improve animal agriculture in view of severe climate change impacts, but is not receiving the attention it deserves. This came later as I was compiling the key highlights. Then we have 5 progressive countries with product-based genome editing guidelines, which are setting the pace in the continent. And these are marked in green. We have Kenya, Nigeria, we have Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Malawi. We also have 2 or more that have actually developed the guidelines. They're in draft, and very soon we're expecting them to also get approval. Then another highlight was the need for a harmonized regulatory approach, which participants felt would promote regional collaborative research and delivery of high-value genome-edited animals in Africa. Then, of course, there was a clarion call to address genome editing misinformation and disinformation promptly. So in terms of the specifics, we had, I divided that into progress and actions. So in the introductions and highlights, it was already felt that stakeholder engagements has been ongoing since the 4th conference, but this has been sporadic. So there was this need to regularize focused engagements with policymakers, regulators, researchers, and the private sector, and also to ensure inclusive consultations to build trust with new breeding techniques. Number 2 is the progress that was noted, that there is progress in the R&D with promising innovations, solutions, and products in the pipeline. And some of the actions that are being undertaken that need to be strengthened is one is biobanking to safeguard Africa's animal biodiversity and also to understand what we have. Then genetic tests for breed composition, including surrogate sire technologies, and then genome edited for improving animal adaptability given the climate change, and also health and welfare. Another progress was the Africa Union that is leading harmonization of the policy and regulatory landscape in Africa, and the African Union member states were urged to adopt the AU NEPAD genome editing policy framework that provides clarity on various regulatory pathways. There's already a template which shows the flow of how member states could consider the decision-making on the regulatory decisions or the regulatory approaches they make. Then number 4 was the steady progress with a number of countries. I have already mentioned 5, which have genome edited policies and regulations. And we had case studies from Kenya and Nigeria. And these have already, the guidelines have determined the regulatory pathways. There is progress in countries opting for product-based approach instead of process-based approach. So if it is SDN1, then the regulator recommends that other regulatory agencies do the oversight. And then if it is SDN2 or 3 and has novel traits, the product has a novel trait, then it is considered as a GMO, so it follows the normal or uses the normal GMO laws and guidelines in the countries. Then regulators did assert that they are competent and ready to provide the necessary regulatory oversight although no decision on animals has been made yet, and researchers were encouraged not to let the regulators down and not to keep them idle. They are waiting for applications to review the researchers' products and applications. There were a number of concerns that were raised. I picked 4. One was whether bred animals could be considered as organic. I think this also ran in the EU session. And then how to address animal welfare issues with GED applications. Again, there were concerns, but there were also responses that clearly showed that GED applications response to animal welfare positively. Then GED applications, interference with the metabolism functions. And again, there was a call for more capacity building to ensure that the nutrition components and other anti-nutritional elements are removed before the products are actually given a decision. Then another concern was how to reconcile sub-regional decisions on regulatory approaches with national guidelines when there are divergences. For example, there are some sub-regional groupings. An example was given of ECOWAS, which had proposed a process-based approach, but now many of the countries in ECOWAS are opting for product-based approach. Then we got the example of Nigeria and Ghana, Burkina, and so on. But overall, it was felt that national sovereignty takes precedence, mainly based on the needs of the country and the reason why they are using the technologies. So as a way forward, a number of recommendations were made. One is to foster inclusive dialogue, stakeholder consultations in the process of developing policies and regulations governing animal biotechnology applications. Number 2 is to encourage harmonized approaches to regulating agricultural applications of animal biotechnologies. And it was also felt that we could start with the countries that are already ahead. They start looking at how they can review applications together, and then harmonization will come organically. Then establish and strengthen collaborations in animal biotechnology R&D in the continent. Again, it was felt that there were some scattered researches going on in different parts of the continent, so we need to have collaboration. Then encourage need-based animal biotechnology R&D that addresses specific country or region-based challenges and responds to consumer and market needs. This was really emphasized, and then the issue of building trust through transparency and sustained communication along the R2D processes. And with that, then I thank you and invite you to a number of initiatives that ISAAA Africenter has already put in place to ensure that the conversation goes and we are able to track the progress. We have the genome editing in Africa's agriculture and early takeoff, so you can register your projects here. Then we have an Africa Science Dialogue platform, and we are going to start engaging more with animal scientists because there are a lot of issues that came up in the Q&A and in the chat. And then lastly, in the introduction, Alison said, I am the co-convener of the African Biennial Biosciences Communication Symposium, ABBC, coming up next year in Ghana. So we are all looking forward to have a strong session on animal biotechnology. Thank you.